Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MarkZDrumcast. I am your host, Mark Zapata, the founder and owner of MarkZDrums, the host of the MarkZDrumcast, and very sad day today. Well, it was a very sad day. It still is very sad for us as the drumming world is dealing with the passing of drumming's global ambassador, Mr. Dom Famularo, who passed away on September 27th at the age of 70, at the ripe young age of 70 years old. Dom Famularo was a name that I've always heard coming up throughout my drumming career. Living in the place he grew up in, where he got his start, where he did his thing. I never had the pleasure of studying with him, but I already felt like I knew him because of the people I studied with and how they spoke of him. And then later on, as I got older and I began MarkZDrums and I started my teaching career, he really became somebody that I was fixated on, focused on, because again, drumming's global ambassador, the man traveled the world spreading the word of drumming, educating people all over the globe. And so for me, the thing that I always took away from him was that every time I saw him perform, speak, play on a video, or wherever I saw him, was his incredible, infectious energy. The man was always smiling, always upbeat, always had an incredible energy about him. And even in his later years, like, it was unbelievable to me. So he was very inspiring to me. I watched him all the time on Sabian Education Network, and just really a huge loss to the drumming world. I mean, if you can, if you get a chance, if you're so inclined, go and check out his stuff. Go and seek out Dom Famularo. Look at any of the lessons, his clinics, anything he's done, just to have the experience of experiencing the man's energy and his passion for drumming and his passion for teaching. Truly incredible, and a very sad day in the world of drumming for sure. And that's really all I have to say. Anybody who wants to share, go ahead in the comments section and share anything you want about him, about your experience with him, about your whatever of Dom Famularo, because it's really important that he's acknowledged for all the amazing work that he's done in his career, in his long career and lifetime in drumming. Truly one of the greats. And as an educator myself, as a teacher myself, I draw so much inspiration from him as somebody that I definitely would like to, or hope to, be able to emulate in some way in my teaching career. I share his passion for educating people in the ways of drumming, people who love drums, people who love drums and drumming, and anybody who really is looking for experience and knowledge, that can benefit from what I'm offering them. So, R.I.P. Dom Famularo, a very important figure in drumming, and a local legend. So, yeah, thank you for listening to this. I missed you guys on Friday, had some stuff going on. Was a rough day here at the Drumcast because of this news. So I just wanted to kind of take that time and reflect and and just prepare for today's show. Um, and what a show I have for you today. So, first of all, without getting into uh, too much detail, a small victory for me today. Um, Very excited about it, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, so I come to you today on this beautiful fall day. It is the beginning of October. Here we are. It is pumpkin season. It is pumpkin ale season. It is Halloween season. It is Oktoberfest season. There's a lot going on this month. I love this month. I love this weather. This time of year, the sun is out, it's shining, it's beautiful. What does it have to do with drums? Nothing. But I want to pass on my energy for this time of year. It's beautiful, and I'm super excited about moving through this month of October. So, what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about today, I don't know. I'm unprepared. I have no topics for today. If anybody is out there, let me pull up the chat real quick. I do not have my chat open right now. Let me pull up the chat real quick. See if any of our peeps are on. What is up? I have the chat pulled up, ready to converse with everybody. Okay. All right, so let me get it together. What I would like to talk about today is we've been doing a lot of stuff about beats, right? We've been doing a lot of eighth note beat stuff. We've been doing some independent stuff. Excuse me. I am continually or still working on my laterality video presentation talking about our left side versus our right side and how useless the left side of my body is. I'll speak for myself. How useless the left side of my body is. That might be an overstatement, but if you think about the comparison between your right side and your left side, we do a lot more work with our right side. At least I do. Right hand on the hi-hat, bass drum patterns, you name it. We do a lot more work on the right side than we do on our left side. And last show, we talked about ways to rectify that, right? So let's start now to move into something that's a little more complex, a little more fun, a little more challenging, which is 16th note bass drum patterns, 16th note snare drum patterns, playing off of an 8th note hi-hat. Okay, okay, good. Our lighting's okay there. Let me see. We might want a little bit more, but not during the show. Not during the show. Don't play with lighting during the show. You don't want to do that. Oh, what happened? Oh, okay. You don't want to play with lighting during the show. No, see, that's no good. Oh, that's better, but that's still not good. No. Okay, anyway, still working things out. So, 16th note bass drum pattern, 16th note snare drum patterns. We still have an 8th note hi-hat going, but think of it this way. We'll do straight 8th notes on the hi-hat, and as we're doing that, we're going to play 16th notes on the bass drum. So we're going to play a bass drum on the hi-hat, and then a bass drum in between the hi-hat, and then on the next hi-hat, and in between the hi-hat, and then on the next hi-hat. So in other words, this. Wow, that's some crazy bass drum. I had no idea I had that drum set up from something I was doing previously. All right, we're gonna keep it here. A little more understated, this bass drum. But as you can see, 8th notes on the hi-hat, 16th notes on the bass drum, which means we're playing a bass drum on the hi-hat and then in between the hi-hats. So of course, we can play beats like that, yes, but why would we? Well, maybe we would if we're playing some kind of a crazy dance tune or some kind of house music, something that's got like a constant boom, boom, right? A steady beat. But that's just the basic idea. What we actually want to do is we want to be able to take certain parts of those 16th note bass drums and use them to create cool beats and between the bass drum and the snare drum. So let's give an example of, let's see, 1E. So we'll do the 1 and the E of 1. If you remember earlier shows when we talked about 8th note bass drum patterns, we would do the 1 and the and of 1, the 3 and the and of 3, right? Which would sound like this. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go 1 and the E of 1 and 3 and the E of 3. Because as you know, we count 8th notes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we count 16th notes 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. We're playing smaller notes. So this is what the 1E sounds like and the 3E on the bass drum. All right, so now I'm going to add the of 1 and the of 3 to the 1, the E, and then the No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the 1 and the E of 1, and then the E of 2 on the bass drums, right? So the 1, the E of 1, and the E of 2 on the bass drum, snare drum on the 2 and 4, the 3, the E of 3, and the E of 4, 2 and 4 on the snare drum. Here we go. Okay, so one of the ways we can see this working is the bass drum patterns, those extra bass drums on the E of 1 and the E of 2, the E of 3 and the E of 4, is you can notice that the bass drum is being played while my stick is off the hi-hat because it's being played on a note that falls in between the hi-hat notes that I'm playing. Like this. I'll do it slower again. So you can see the bass drum coming in between those hi-hats. And that's really where the magic happens. That's really where these types of beats, which are more funk type beats, that's where these beats really start to shine. Because we're creating more movement. We're playing smaller notes. So we're playing faster rhythms, right? Between the snare drum and the bass drum and the hi-hat. We're playing smaller notes, we're playing faster rhythms. So that tends to make the groove move a little bit better, move and be a little more fun, have a little more bounce to it. So what we like to do is we like to map out the 16th notes of the bass drum, and then we're going to rest some of them, right? So if, for example, I played the 1 and the E of 1 on the bass drum, nothing else till the E of 2, all right? So where I was playing all those 16th notes before, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, doesn't really serve to move the groove. So what we want to do is we want to make it a little more syncopated of a pattern, but still include those smaller 16th notes, pepper them in there in different places to make the groove feel and sound really, really cool. So there you go. That's an example of a lot more 16th notes being peppered in there between the 8th note hi-hats and also on the 8th note hi-hats. But I would have to watch that back because that was just kind of off the top of my head. It's a cool groove that I like to play. But I would have to count it through 1 E, right? So I think it was 1 E, 1, I'm sorry, 1, the E of 1, and the of 1. 1 E, doom, 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 ba, doom. And then the E of 2, right? So the 1, the E of 1, the of 1, and the of 2. No, see, I'm getting myself confused. 1, the E of 1, the of 1, and the E of 2. And then we can repeat that on the second half of the beat. On the 3, the E of 3, the of 3, and the E of 4. All right, we got that? Okay. If I'm moving too fast, send me a comment. I'll explain it a little bit slower, but it's basic 16th note counting. All right, so what did I do? Let me see. 1, the E of 1, the of 1, the E of 2. 3, the E of 3, the of 3, the E of 4. Okay, here we go. So also the E of 2 and the of 2, the E of 4 and the of 4. Okay, so I'm hopefully going to be able to get to the point where I could write these figures out and post them up for you to see. But that would, of course, take show prep. And who has time for show prep? Certainly not this guy. But anyway, it's all good. Let me play that again because I kind of like that. So I think it's the 1, the E of 1, the of 1, the E of 2, the of 2, the 3, the E of 3, the of 3, and the E of 4 and the of 4. Say that 5 times fast. Let's try that. All right, so there's a little bit of a bass drum pattern based around 16th notes being played off the 8th note hi-hats, which are keeping time. So we want to start to really work on playing those 16th notes underneath those 8th note hi-hats and working on that kind of independence between our right foot and our right hand on the hi-hat, which if you're like me, you're pretty good at that independence already. This is something that we talked about right side versus left side. I'm way more capable on my right side. That just means I haven't done enough work to bring my left side up to speed to my right side, but that's changing. I'm working on that stuff. But that is a fill and a groove that is really, really fun to play. Once you get it up to speed, it's super fun. And again, it's something that repeats, but it's a little more complex and challenging than the simpler 8th note bass drum groove. So how would we do this stuff on a snare drum, with the snare drum? Let's just do a little bit. I think we talked about Smells Like Teen Spirit on a previous show where we talked about the snare drum and the hi-hat, almost doing a single stroke roll between each other, using those 16th notes. Let me see, how does that go? Let me see, hold on. something like that. So what we're doing is 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, right? I hate leaving my mic on because this. But let me turn the drums off so that you can just hear the tappy taps as I count, right? So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So the snare drum part, 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E. So the of 2, the E of 3 on the snare drum, which forms, like I said, with the 1E and a 2E and a 3E and the of 2, the 3, the E of 3, the and of 3 on the hi-hat. So the 3 and the and of 3 on the hi-hat, the of 2 and the E of 3 on the snare drum. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So listen, I'm not sure if that's the exact beat, but it's the idea. And I'm definitely just focusing on the hi-hat and the snare drum part, which I'm pretty sure is correct. The bass drum might be a little bit off from the song, but the important part is the of 2, the 3 on the hi-hat, the E of 3 on the snare drum, the and of 3 on the hi-hat, giving you that little quick single stroke roll between the hi-hat and the snare. 2 E, right? Right, so you have that single stroke roll going on between the hi-hat and the snare. That's a very small example of doing 16th note snare drums as part of a groove. And then we could also talk about combining 16th note bass drums and 16th note snare drums to come up with really, really cool grooves. I'll give you an example. And what I'd love is anybody watching this, count along the 16th notes, and as a self-exercise for yourself, count along with what I'm playing, and then figure out if you can decipher where the snare drums are being played, where the bass drums are being played, which 16th notes, where there are rests for the snare drums, where there may be rests for the bass drum in the 16th notes, but what notes are being played. I don't know, I'm gonna just come up with something. I know. I went a little all over the place. I didn't follow any type of a pattern, but the idea is that we want to be able to mix up our 16th notes. I think you heard maybe a couple of paradiddles in there that I was working on between my hand and my foot, or paradiddles between the hi-hat and the snare drum, which is also another pattern that we could use to utilize that 16th note snare drum, bass drum pattern, playing with the hi-hat. Okay, so I started out using a couple of 16th notes on the hi-hat, but then I realized, no, I want to keep the hi-hat on the 8th notes and just concentrate on the paradiddles between my right foot and my left hand on the snare drum. That's also a fun thing to do. And then to permutate them one over so that the double stroke is now coming in the middle of the 4 16th notes instead of at the end, like a normal paradiddle. And you could just keep playing around with different permutations of that paradiddle between the bass drum and the snare drum, and maybe start with a double stroke. like that. But that's a whole nother story. Paradiddles. We should do something on paradiddles. I think we're going to do something on paradiddles on an upcoming episode of the MarkZ Drumcast. But that's going to do it for me for now. I have eagerly waiting students that we are going to be working with later on today. A really fun lineup I have in store for myself today of really cool and fun students. And then tomorrow it is back to band and other students. And yeah, back to business. Another week starts in the world of MarkZ Drums. Thank you all for coming to see the Drumcast. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. And maybe a primetime episode on Friday. We'll see how it goes, but I'll definitely let you guys know. I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start letting you guys know more of a schedule as we move forward. Again, I appreciate you guys checking out the MarkZ Drumcast. Sorry I was a little all over the place today. Like I said, some things going on, but everything's all good. Check out my socials, MarkZ Drums across all platforms, Mark Zapata Drums on YouTube. I have a lot of great stuff coming up. My Patreon is live. I have a few patrons that are enjoying the benefits. We have stickers coming for the first tier of membership. We have stickers coming, and there will be an exclusive drum cover that's been requested by one of my patrons that will go up exclusively for them or for members on Patreon, MarkZDrums on Patreon. Go ahead and check it out. Thanks again.